Hey, and welcome everybody. On the bench today, as you can see, we have the Cardassian Galor class ship, the old AMT kit, AMT Earl ship on Deep Space Nine. I don't think I've ever built one of these on the channel. I have built one quite a while in the past. I don't remember exactly when. I still have it somewhere. So let's take a quick look at it before we get started. This off to the side. Now, of course, the box was in kind of not the best condition, but everything is intact, still wrapped in plastic. The box itself was still wrapped in plastic when I got it. So, see what we got here. Looks to be a really basic kit as far as number of parts. You have the top and bottom of the main hull, and a lot of flashing is mostly on the sprue, so that's not too bad. A little bit of flashing here and there. There's the bottom. This is the top. It's molded in kind of a very kind of light grayish color. Got some raised panel lines and some more raised window detail to let you know where the windows go. And of course we have the sides to the ship, the tail section, a couple other little parts, and then it's like we have the bridge section, the top and bottom, and having the nice Cardassian emblem, and that is part of your display base, a nicely detailed display base. And that's about it. You got a little tail section here, or part that goes into the tail section, and that's about it. So not a lot of pieces. So of course I plan on lighting this kit, and I'm going to have to think about how I'm going to do that. It's a very light plastic, like gray, almost white. I'm wondering if it can be kind of lit from the inside without almost like a clear part or translucent part. If it's translucent enough to light that, I don't know. It's pretty thick plastic, so I don't know if that would work. I may just have to drill out those windows to get it to look right. There are some clear parts. We have the kind of these, I guess they're Brassard collectors of some sort. I think there's some impulse engines in the back. And I think we have like these little diamond shape. Yeah, there's quite a few diamond shaped parts on here. I'm not sure where they all go, but there's quite a few on the sprue here. So I'm going to have to think about how I'm going to do all this. I have ordered the Aztecing decals. I guess it is not really Aztecing so much as it's kind of like this weathering pattern, but it's a decal set, which will make detailing the surface of the ship up much easier if it works out. They're not here yet, so when they get here, I'll show you those. But first, we just have to figure out how we're going to do the lighting and how it's going to be displayed. All right, so working on opening up the windows here, and I had to make a choice. Now, the model comes with these kind of lifted detail of the windows, these very small rectangles, and I tried cutting it out in some of this bottom section here just to kind of see if I could do it, and as you can tell, it looks terrible. I couldn't keep it, even when I tried, I couldn't repeat that over and over. Ended up closing several. I still got to close a couple of these back up. They just look too bad, and so decided not to try to even do the rectangles for the windows. Instead, I know it's like Canon, but I'm just going to go with the circle windows, and right here I've drilled in, of course I used the rectangles as a guide to where the windows went. I did add some extra ones, especially on the back here. There wasn't any kind of detail. And I've gone in, and once I drilled the holes, I took a sanding stick, a 400 grit sanding stick, and sanded away that rectangle detail. So I have a little bit, I don't know if you can see it here, but it's still a little bit of that detail. Now I am kind of sanding away some of this very small raised panel lines here, and that's okay. I think the decal set I have coming will kind of simulate the panel lines on there, so I'm not too worried about that. If I think if it's gonna make a big difference, I could go in and add in some styrene to recreate that panel line. But right now, I'm not too worried about it. I think it's not going to be noticeable at all. It's very lightly raised detail, so won't make much of a difference on that. But back to the round windows, I just felt like it was better to have something that looked uniform, that I had more control of, just drilling these in. And I think overall I had a much cleaner look to it than to try. They were just too small. They're way too small. I'm not sure how people open those up. If you know how they do that, then please let me know, because I took my time trying to open a few up, and they're just so small that even the tip of my X-Acto knife was just way too big to try to cut through that. And there was no file. I had no files that were that small, so it just wasn't working out. It was just looking really janky. So, but it's a small detail. Most people probably won't even notice. And I think once we have all the lights on, it'll look pretty good. So I've attached the bottom section. There you have these side pieces that glue in on here, and just working on the seams right here. Pretty good. A little bit still kind of showing. Once I prime it, I can get a better look at what's sticking out. But it kind of glues in right here, all the way down, and up here you have these large pieces. And typically what I do is I put a thin layer of modeling glue, attach it, and then on the inside I'll put some CA glue to kind of hold it in place. There's no way to really clamp this in because of the angle and the shape of it. So I used the CA glue to hold it in place while the modeling glue sets up. And you can see here I've already started light blocking. I took some flat black and covered in this section where we're going to have a lot of lights going in. And I've cut away some sections for, I guess they're Passard collectors. There's some clear parts that are going to go in these sections right here. And I'll have some, I have some 5mm. These are orange LEDs, pre-wired. And if you see, I've sanded it down. And I've done this many times. It's okay. You can see the diode. As long as the diode's intact, it should be okay. Of course, always test it, but I flattened it out so it will sit better. And eventually they'll be glued into place to illuminate those collectors. You got 4 of them, so I have 4 of these ready to go. I think as far as the interior lighting to do all the windows, I'm going to test out this. This is some soft white LED, so it's not that bright white color. It has a little bit of a yellowish tint to it. And I'll be putting that all around. I've also drilled in some holes. You have these like pyramid clear pieces that kind of go, let's see better here. There's some marked square areas where those little clear pieces go. So I've cut away, and there's 3. There's one on the top, bottom, and on the back here. So I'll be putting an LED kind of in the middle of all that to light those 3 up. Also cutting away the impulse engine section here. There's a clear piece that will fit over, and I left just a little bit of a knob so the clear piece will have something to rest against. But there will be some lighting in there on the impulse engines, and also I believe on the bridge section there's also another impulse engine in here, and I've started to cut away part of that, so I'll have to cut away the top part. And same thing, I'll leave just a little bit of a lip on each side so that clear piece has something to press against. And again, cutting the holes in here. And this is pretty narrow. I don't know how well these are going to illuminate. I'll have to test around to see if I can get those on the sides here illuminated. And just kind of see the holes I've been drilling. So that's where I'm at. At this point, I need to put a white coat on here. I need that light to bounce around to illuminate those windows, and then I'll start adding lights. Not a whole lot of pieces to this kit. I know I still have to work on the tail section. There's a light in that, and I think the tricky part is just trying to get all this lighting to illuminate all these windows. You have some on the very edges, and how I'm going to do that. Plus the front section, they give you a big clear piece. I guess the disruptor array or phaser, I'm not sure what kind of weapon it is. I think it's a disruptor. It's a big clear piece that they give you of here, but it's only like the kind of the outline of the part that's actually visible. And I've seen it in red and I've seen it in blue. It seems like I saw red in one of the episodes. So I'll have to do some kind of red lighting up in here to illuminate that the way I want it to. So it's going to be a lot of testing to see get those lighting effects to work without bleeding into each other. I believe the impulse engines were orange in color, and what I may do is just paint the lenses orange and let the light inside illuminate that, and then just have an orange kind of filter on it. So that's my plan moving forward, and we'll just see how that goes. All right, just taking care of the light that goes in the tail section here, and it's just going to be one of those little pyramid clear pieces that goes right here. And let's see if you can bring this into focus. There we go. I don't know if you can see, but there's a little outline right around where I have the hole drilled, and that's where the piece will sit on top of it. So I have this soft white LED placed in there. I have some underneath this hot glue is some of this chrome tape for light blocking, so I don't get a lot of bleed on the top here. And I put that black hot glue to kind of keep it from firing out. And then it'll come out. You see I've drilled a hole. Now I put the tail section on. It has a little mounting peg that slides into a hole back here, and you can see where I drilled a hole there. And what I did is I placed that on and drilled a hole. That way it would line up. I drilled through both pieces at the same time, so we can put our wiring from this one light through that hole. And then that will be glued on to there, and we have our light on the top here. And I'll check to make sure. I think that's the only light. That's probably the only light that's going to go into it. So from here, I will glue this together and take care of the seam line and check for any light bleed. So that's the plan on that section. And you can see where I've put in a gloss white coat. I did this also on the bottom section of the hull to bounce all of our light around. So that's all good. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I broke my soldering iron, so I just ordered a new one. And before I can attach any of the inside lighting, I have to get that soldering iron, because there'll be some soldering linking up this LED tape together inside there. I'll have quite a few segmented parts throughout the ship that need to be attached together. And of course, I still need to put in all my Bassard collectors. I'm going to have to see where I have these. I've sanded these down to be flat, and you can order smaller LEDs that would fit without sanding. This is just what I had, without having to order in a whole nother batch. I can use these that I've had for some time. This is a soft white LED, and it's going to go in here, and it's going to illuminate the top, bottom, and the back of those little pyramid clear pieces. So at least that's the plan. Hopefully all that will work out. All right, I have most of my lighting for the inside of the ship completed, or at least attached to the ship. Of course, I did light block the inside with black and then a gloss coat of white. And then I've attached, as you can see, a series of strip lights. This last one was kind of added in because I was worried I wasn't getting quite enough light in there. These are kind of some ultra bright strip lighting here. Now this is actually the waterproof kind. I accidentally ordered that, so it does have a kind of a rubber protection on it, but it still gets really bright. You can see where I've attached in the different lights. I guess these are Bussard collectors. These are orange LEDs. I have some white LEDs. These are soft white LEDs. One for the impulse engines back here. For the, I think they're like phaser emitters or disruptor emitters. There's little clear pyramid parts. You can see up here where I've attached some LEDs. Now these are red 3mm LEDs that will illuminate the, I guess, whatever kind of weapon it is, the super phaser or disruptor, or I think it's something else, but I forget what it's called at the moment. But I've attached this piece of styrene here to kind of light block it. Now I've checked, and it looks like just this will keep it. There is some gaps in here when you close the model up, but I've test fit, and it doesn't seem to interfere with this lighting. I may have to build some sidewalls in here to kind of keep this red focused toward the front so we don't get bleed over into the middle. Everything's just kind of channeled into the back, as you can see, for testing purposes. I will eventually solder this together with a power wire that will probably come out somewhere here. I'll have to drill one more hole to get the power out, since this attachment is going to mount into a solid screw. There's no way to run the wiring in here, so I will need to bring the wiring probably somewhere in here. I'll have to look. I didn't plan that out very well. Maybe off to the side. I can get a small hole. Anyway, I'll have to drill another hole somewhere in here for a power line to come out. Of course, we'll have to attach the top of this section where I've already glued in the tail section that has its LED to illuminate that disruptor bank. There, and of course we have the bridge section with some strip lighting in here, and that will illuminate the lights in here. And we'll have to run that first through the bridge where I've cut some holes in there, and then into the main body. So I'll have to attach all those wires, but this is about it for the lighting. There won't be any blinking lights or anything like that, but we will have some red, some orange, some window lights, the impulse engine, stuff like that. What I will do is paint these clear parts also. At least that's the plan right now, so we can attach those on there. Now for the front, for that super weapon, I've masked off and painted this section. This will go into here. And when I look at video, there's quite a bit of masking. If you can see in here, actually you can see it from the back a lot better, where I first put in a black light blocking coat, and then I went in with some aluminum paint also to give it a little bit of kind of a metal finish. But I had to mask off everything except for the lines that ran around it from the when I go and research different videos. Of course, it's different colors. I've seen some blues. I think the reds were kind of using the Deep Space Nine battles with the Dominion and stuff, so that's why I chose red. So it will illuminate and give a nice red glow on those sections there. Once I painted it all up, I did add in a matte coat to dull it up, and that's also going to help diffuse the light, so we get a nice glow on that. So you can see here what parts will be illuminated. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and attach the model. There's a few little exterior parts that have to be added, but nothing major. But I have to seal everything up and check for light leaks, and of course I have to run my power line. So we're going to do all that, and we'll come back and look what it looks like once we get it all sealed up. All right, well, I have it all sealed up and my first coat of primer on everything, and I still have some body work to do. I don't know how well it's going to show on camera, so if I can get you in there. You can see a seam line right here, and I got a few other places I'm going to need to address. A little bit of touch up right here. A few other places that just aren't smooth. I can still see some lines here. So you're going to have a lot of body work when you go to connect the two halves of the body here. To get this thing looking good. But otherwise it's looking pretty good. The primer went on good. I used a self-etching primer this time on this older model kit. In my last few projects working on these old 80s and 90s kits have had problems with the paint sticking to it. Now I did wash this one thoroughly with some dish soap and dried it, but I think the self-etching primer, hopefully that will bite into the plastic a little better and not peel off. So, but it's looking good. Just a little bit of cleanup here. I've already cleaned up mostly around the two halves of the bridge section here. Again, I'll have to walk all around it and make sure all that's done. I just used some mascol to cover the LEDs. And of course, you can see where I've kind of put some parts in there to cover up those areas where light comes through, and just stuck some tissue here where the main weapon's at. So that's looking good. I'm going to do some more body work, probably another coat of primer, and then we'll start working on putting a base coat on. All right, well here you can see I now have a base coat on, and it's coming out a little bit more yellow on camera than it is in person. It's more brownish, I guess you would say, and not so yellow or golden. So the paint I used was, first I did a mix of these two paints, acrylic craft paints. I have a caramel from Anita's and a khaki from Apple Barrel. Is mostly the caramel with just a little bit of khaki. That came out a bit too dark, and so I had made container full of this. Now when I make this, I use water and a little bit of alcohol. The alcohol helps break down the paint, and then I strain it through like a coffee filter strainer, and then water it down, or get it to a consistency of kind of a milky consistency, and then from there it usually sprays out pretty good. So I had no problems getting that base coat on, but it was a little bit darker, so I had plenty of the paint left over, and I added probably another couple parts of just white to it and to lighten it, and then I went back over with another coat to kind of lighten it down. You can't tell much, but I didn't try to be like a full covering on that second coat. A little bit of just allowing some of that other colors to come through, the other base color, so you have a little bit of modulation in the paint. So I'm pretty happy with the paint. Again, it's coming out a bit yellow on the phone here on my camera, but the paint job itself is looking good, nice, uniform. I don't have any issues that I'm seeing with the paint. I have also clear coated with a clear acrylic matte coat, and I'm letting that cure on the model before we start doing any detail painting, because I don't want to lift off this paint that I've already put on. We'll have some detail painting with all these inset areas. Some of these raised sections I know are different colors, the bridge sections different colors. So we'll be, we'll go ahead once the paint gets nice and cured. We'll let that cure for quite a while, so it's good and hard, and then I'll mask off and do some of the detail painting. All right, I have, I think, most of the detail painting done. I did take some liberties here. It's my ship, so it's mostly in the style of what you see on the shows, but I took a little liberties with some of the colors of like the impulse engines, and a few places here and there about how I did the colors. Now, as far as the dark brown, I used this burnt umber from Folk Art. Of course, I thinned that down and strained it and did some of these darker areas that you see here. I have a lighter brown that was Vallejo's pale brown. And then for the metal, I used Vallejo's Model Color Natural Steel, and I airbrushed that onto the different parts. So from here, and then after I did all the detailed painting, and just look at the bottom here where we see, I guess these are cargo areas or shuttle bays. I'm not sure what these are. They seem rather large, but those are also painted in, as you can see. But from here, I have a weathered panel decal set from AMT that I bought for this kit, and I'll be applying it. It's more than this. It's a huge page full. This was just one section of it. So a lot of decals, they are pre-cut, so you don't have to trim them. You just have to cut them out, and they should fit onto the different panels. So we have a instruction guide here to show us the different panels. So I'll be doing that next, and we'll see how all that goes on. All right, as you can see here, I have the bottom of the ship covered in all these Aztecing decals or weathering decals. Not sure if it's an Aztec pattern more than it is some sort of weathering. The good is that it looks very nice. It gives the model a lot of detail to it, a really nice look to it. The bad is that these are really not very friendly to put on. You're going to need some setting solution. I'm using a little bit of mark setter underneath to get it on, and then some microsol once it's on. There are quite a few little places of raised detail where there's these small but long gaps, and so it doesn't want to sit down inside that. And then the actual decals themselves, let me show you here, for instance. Like this one right here is one long decal. So you had that whole probably 3-4 inches. You have this one right here, which that is one decal. There's no way that that's going on intact as one decal. Even with the smaller ones, like these longer ones, once you start removing it from the backing paper, they start curling under. And I had a lot of issues straightening that out. You have to really make sure it's set and then slide it off. But what I found out is helping a lot is just cutting it up in very small sections. There's a lot of this clear decal area, and I found that just cutting that away made it a lot easier to apply. I didn't have near as many issues. But even that, they were still wanting to curl up. I did actually lose one, I think right here. That one actually it curled up under. I had to try to work with it, put it back in some warm water, let it flatten out. But by the time I got it flattened out, it was starting to break apart. Fortunately, what I did is since these are kind of sectionalized, I just kind of spread apart the decals so it's really not too noticeable. So I was able to repair that. Now, some of these broader sections, you have to, like I said, you have to be really careful with. My plan on this one is probably cutting it up in several sections to apply it. Some of them have it going around these edges here. My advice is to cut it on the edge, and that way you're not trying to fold the decal. But that being said, they are somewhat durable. I mean, I was able to kind of pull some off, put them back in the warm water to get them to flatten back out, put the paper back on it, and then pull them out and reapply it. So this, it's not been the friendliest or most fun putting these decals on, but it's getting there, and it does look really nice. Of course, once we put a matte coat on, it'll take away that shine and give us a nice look to it. Still got to do the top. Just in comparison, you can see what a difference it makes. Here we have the top without the decals and painted. You know, it's has a shine to it. Another thing is you do want to have a clear coat to get these decals to slide around. There's a lot of moving around. If you don't have a clear coat, you're going to grab on and you'll never be able to fix it at that point. It's hard enough with a nice clear coat. Anyway, so you have that. And then with the decals, you can tell the difference. It makes quite a bit of difference. It makes a really nice look. They do look really nice, I will say that. They're just a little bit of a headache to put on. So I'm going to get next is applying all this decals on the top. And from there, we can start doing a little bit of weathering. And we have to add on all our clear pieces. And we'll be close to being finished. All right, well, here is our finished AMT Ertl Star Trek Cardassian Galor class cruiser. I guess it's a cruiser class. So the decals, they look really nice, but there is a lot of work that goes into getting them on. I highly recommend kind of cutting them up in smaller, especially some of the longer ones that run down the length of the ship, cutting those up, make it a little bit easier. You'll need a lot of decal solution to get to really set in. Some of these parts, it goes over a lot of raised detail and it'll create air bubbles. So just take your time, be patient, let the decal solution do its job. But as you can see, it gives the model a lot of surface detail and makes it look really nice. So I'm really happy with how the colors came out. I'm happy with my base color. I think it really matches what you see on screen. At least some of what I've seen anyway. So I'm really happy with the paint job. And of course, I had to add in the kit decals of the Cardassian emblems and whatever that says right there. And there's a few, not a lot. There's a couple on the bottom, some on the side, and that's the kit supplied decals. Really happy with the lighting. As you can see, it's on just a wood base here, and it's just like a little craft box you can get at like a hobby store. And I painted, originally I was going to try to use the kit supplied. This is the base that comes with the kit, and it has a little part that comes up that holds it up. I wanted to incorporate that in the base, but with the way I have this monitor stand holding it up, it just wouldn't fit right. So I just used this, I set it on top and kind of painted around it, just to at least have some kind of emblem there to give it some interest on our display base there. And like I said, it's just a wood box underneath. You can see just some simple wiring. Now this is holding 8 AA batteries, which gives us 12 volts. And since we have all the LED lighting strip inside, make sure that it lasts for a while. Really basic wiring going in there. You can see the box and everything that it's put on and then painted. So pretty simple to get all that done. So let's take a quick look at the lighting, and really happy with how the lighting came through. You know, it's hate that I couldn't quite get those rectangular windows cut in. That this wasn't looking good, so a little bit of a compromise going after rounded windows, but I think it's more uniform and has a much neater appearance than the butchering job I was doing underneath when I was trying to cut in those rectangular windows. I had to glue in all the clear parts, and of course up here, I guess these are the Bussard collectors. The engines, you can see right here, the impulse engines, those clear parts, with a little bit of sanding, they just press fit in, and I didn't even have to glue those. Or, you know, this is lit, this section right here, but it's not too bright, sorry. Right here, and again, that's clear piece, just press fit in, and had to add all these little clear pyramids. I guess these are like phaser arrays. There's 3 on each side. I got a couple up here. I got one in the back that's lit on the tail section there. And so pretty happy. I do have some changes. I should have used similar lights. I have a little bit of color difference between some of them. We have some of those pyramids right here. There's 4 on each side. Take a look at the phaser array, deflector array. I know it's a weapon, like a super weapon kind of thing. I've heard it called several things. So pretty pleased how that came out. I got a little bit, as I'm looking on camera, I see a little bit of a light leak right there I'll have to address, but that's not a big deal. But pretty happy with how the red came out. I've seen it in different colors. Supposedly, I guess there are different versions of the ship, and I think the red was the most modern version. Maybe it's a more powerful weapon. I'm not sure. But just a look at the front of our ship there. So, and to glue in all these, just a little tip, I use this white glue, and I put it in this small container. You do have to thin it down with just some water a little bit to come out, but it gives you a lot more control than trying to use a big bottle. And also I had some minor gaps going on with these Bussard collectors, I guess, and I just used this to kind of drip it in there, and I had to do a few coats to kind of build it up, but it has sealed around nicely. You don't see a gap now anymore, and that was really convenient to use this little dropper to kind of pull it in some of these hard to reach places. And since it's white glue, it dries clear, but it did form in there. And since my LED underneath was orange, it's not like I'm seeing a bright white light anywhere. So pretty pleased with how that came out. And again, really happy with how the engine lighting turned out. I do really like the, now that it's done, the decals, I definitely think it's worth it, but it is a lot of work. But in the end, you get a much more detailed model with a lot more visual interest that more closely resembles what you see on the screen. So anyway, hope you've enjoyed the video. Until next time, everybody have a good one.